They made us laugh every week. They felt like part of our families. But behind those bright smiles were children carrying burdens no child should bear. These are the 6 most tragic stories of 1970s child stars. Number 1. Anissa Jones from Family Affair.
I love you, Uncle Bill. It will be nice to live with you.
Anissa Jones had one of the most recognizable faces on television in the late 1960s and early 1970s. As Buffy Davis on Family Affair, she captured hearts with her blonde pigtails and her beloved doll, Mrs. Beasley. The show ran from 1966 to 1971, and during those 5 years, Anissa worked constantly, 7 days a week, all year round. She was just a child, but her schedule was more demanding than most adults could handle.
Mrs. Beasley is my friend.
Born in West Lafayette, Indiana in 1958, Anissa came from an academic family. Her father was an engineer at Purdue University. When the family moved to California in 1963, nobody could have predicted that their daughter would become one of the most famous child actors in America. Family Affair hit number 1 in the ratings in 1969. Buffy and her brother Jody became household names. Mrs. Beasley dolls flew off store shelves, becoming the best-selling toy in America during the show's run. Anissa was everywhere, but she wasn't happy.
No, sir. I'll have one friend and one doll.
When Family Affair was finally canceled in 1971, Anissa was thrilled. She was 13 years old and had spent nearly her entire childhood working. Now she could finally go to regular school, make real friends, be a normal teenager. She attended Westchester High School and even got a job at Winchell's Donut Shop in Playa del Rey. For a while, it seemed like she might be one of the lucky ones who escaped Hollywood unscathed. But the damage had already been done. The years of constant work, the pressure, the loss of a normal childhood. Anissa struggled. She turned to the wrong crowd, began making choices that offered escape from the pain she carried inside.
And I had my picture on a record album. Would you be proud of me?
On her 18th birthday, Anissa received her trust fund. $70,000 plus another $107,000 in savings bonds. It should have been a fresh start. Instead, it was the beginning of the end. Just months later, on August 28, 1976, Anissa Jones passed away in a friend's home in Oceanside, California. She was 18 years old. The little girl with the pigtails who'd made millions of people smile was gone.
I like Mrs. Beasley better than a big old bear.
Her brother Paul later said that Anissa had never wanted to be an actress. It was their mother's dream, not hers. She'd spent her entire childhood fulfilling someone else's ambition. And when she finally got the chance to live her own life, she didn't know how. Number 2. Dana Plato from Different Strokes.
Oh no, it's too late!
If you watched television in the late 1970s and early 1980s, you knew Dana Plato. As Kimberly Drummond on Different Strokes, she was America's sweetheart. The beautiful, sweet daughter on a show that tackled serious issues while making families laugh.
Yes, I did, with a friend of mine. She's the one that's pregnant.
Dana was born in 1964 to a teenage mother and was adopted as an infant. She grew up in the San Fernando Valley, training as a figure skater before turning to acting. She appeared in commercials, then landed small television roles. But everything changed when she was cast in Different Strokes in 1978.
We've just met and already he's insulting me like a real brother.
The show was groundbreaking. A wealthy white man adopts 2 African-American boys from Harlem. It dealt with racism, class differences, and family in ways television hadn't really done before. And Dana, as the biological daughter of the family, was the bridge between these 2 worlds. For 6 seasons, she was a star. People recognized her everywhere. Fan mail poured in. She was invited to events, interviewed by magazines. On screen, she played the perfect daughter. Off-screen, her life was becoming increasingly complicated. Dana had started making poor choices early. The pressures of fame, the constant work, the lack of normal teenage experiences, all of it was taking a toll.
You talk about a wild imagination.
And he only saved a dog.
Then Dana became pregnant during the show's run. The producers dismissed her at the end of the 6th season in 1984. She was 20 years old, and suddenly, her career was over. In Hollywood, there's often no middle ground for child stars. You're either a working child actor or you're nobody. Dana went from being somebody to being nobody almost overnight.
Willis, you tell a great story.
Yeah, once I get warmed up.
What followed was a downward spiral that became painfully public. Dana turned to roles that traded on her former fame. An accountant stole most of her money after she signed over power of attorney. She needed work, needed money, needed something to hold on to. In 1991, Dana made a terrible mistake and was arrested. She was placed on probation. The following year, she was arrested again. She served 30 days in jail and went to rehabilitation. But Dana kept trying. She wanted another chance, wanted to prove she could come back. In May 1999, she did an interview with Howard Stern, hoping it would revive her career. She and her fiancé were driving back to California, stopping at his mother's house in Oklahoma for a Mother's Day visit. On May 8, 1999, Dana said she wasn't feeling well and went to lie down. She never woke up. She was 34 years old. The tragedy didn't end there. Dana's son, Tyler Lambert, struggled with his own challenges after losing his mother. On May 6, 2010, 2 days before the 11th anniversary of Dana's passing, Tyler also passed away. He was 25 years old.
Here's that world-famous dancer, the fabulous Arnoldovich.
Number 3. Gary Coleman from Different Strokes.
Without Homer, I'd only be able to fall awake.
Gary Coleman was more than just a child star. He was a phenomenon. That adorable face, those expressive eyes, that perfect comic timing, and that catchphrase everyone in America could quote, "What you talking about, Willis?" Born in 1968, Gary was adopted by a loving family who supported his early career. But Gary's childhood was complicated by a serious medical condition. He had a congenital kidney disease that stunted his growth and required dialysis. He had his first kidney transplant at age 5. Even then, his body rejected it eventually, and he needed another transplant later in life. The disease, and the medication he took for it, kept him looking much younger than his actual age.
In the meantime, eat, drink, and be merry for Mondays.
It was perfect for television. It would be devastating for his adult life. The medication had side effects. The constant medical procedures were exhausting. But Gary kept working because that's what everyone expected of him. His parents saw him as their ticket to financial security. The studio saw him as a gold mine. Nobody seemed to see him as a sick little boy who needed rest and care. Different Strokes premiered in 1978, and Gary became an instant star. At 10 years old, he was earning more money than most adults ever would. He was charming, funny, talented beyond his years. He appeared on talk shows, in commercials, in movies. Everyone loved Gary Coleman.
You got something against clean goldfish?
But Gary himself wasn't happy. By 1981, just 3 years into the show, he was already tired of it. The character wasn't growing, wasn't interesting to him anymore. But his contract was signed. He had no choice but to keep going. The show ended in 1986, and that's when Gary's real problems began. He looked like a child. He was trapped in that body, that face that everyone associated with Arnold Jackson. As an adult actor, nobody wanted him. The roles dried up. Gary sued his parents and business manager in 1989, proving they had mismanaged his finances. He won the case, but the damage was done. Most of his money was gone. In 1999, he declared bankruptcy. His personal life was turbulent. He struggled with anger, got into physical altercations. His relationship with his wife, Shannon Price, was volatile, with both accusing the other of being harmful. He took security guard jobs just to pay the bills. In 2010, Gary suffered a fall at his home in Utah. He hit his head, which caused a brain hemorrhage. He was taken to the hospital, but the damage was too severe. On May 28, 2010, life support was removed. Gary Coleman was 42 years old. Years earlier, Gary had told an interviewer something that stayed with people who knew him. He said he wouldn't give his first 15 years to his worst enemy, and he didn't even have a worst enemy. The little boy who'd brought joy to millions had spent his own life in pain.
Ain't we too much?
Number 4. Trent Lehman. From Nanny and the Professor.
First I let her, makes her cry. Now I let her, it makes her laugh. Cool it.
Nanny and the Professor was one of those shows that captured the magic of early 1970s television. It wasn't bewitched, but it had that same sense of gentle wonder. And right in the middle of it was Trent Lehman, playing Butch Everett, the mischievous middle child. Born in Los Angeles in 1961, Trent started acting young. He appeared on Gunsmoke, landed small film roles. But Nanny and the Professor was his big break. From 1970 to 1971, he was on television every week, bringing energy and life to the Everett household.
He thinks you're playing.
He's mistaken.
The show was modestly successful. It had good ratings during its first 2 seasons, particularly when it aired on Friday nights between the Brady Bunch and the Partridge Family. Kids loved it. Families watched it together. Trent, along with his co-stars David Doremus and Kim Richards, became familiar faces in American homes. But the show only lasted 2 seasons. When it ended in 1971, Trent was just 10 years old. He did a few more guest spots, including an appearance on Emergency in 1972. Then the work stopped coming. Unlike some child actors who transitioned to other careers, Trent struggled to find his way. His family moved to Colorado in the mid-1970s, hoping for a quieter life away from Hollywood.
Annie, how come girls like to pretend their dolls can talk? Well, it seems that.
Trent worked odd jobs, tried to build a normal life, but it never quite felt right. In the summer of 1981, Trent moved back to California. Friends said he came back for a girl. For a while, things seemed promising. He had love, he had hope. Then the relationship ended badly, and Trent struggled with the rejection. His apartment was burglarized, and he lost many of his possessions. He was going through a very difficult time. In January 1982, Trent went to stay with a childhood friend named Joseph Allen in the San Fernando Valley. He was struggling deeply. Allen offered support and let Trent stay, hoping his friend would feel better. Tragically, on January 18, 1982, Trent passed away. He was only 20 years old. His passing was a shock to everyone who knew him. Trent's passing, along with those of 2 other former child actors, inspired Paul Peterson to found A Minor Consideration, an advocacy group for child stars.
She must be talking in an invisible language, because I can't hear.
Number 5. Bobby Driscoll from Disney Films.
I'd feed him and take care of him and everything, Granny.
Bobby Driscoll was Walt Disney's golden boy, the first child star the studio ever put under contract. In the late 1940s and early 1950s, Bobby was everywhere. He was the star of Song of the South, Treasure Island, So Dear to My Heart. He won a special Juvenile Academy Award in 1950. But most famously, he was the voice and animation model for Peter Pan in 1953. Bobby was born in Cedar Rapids, Iowa in 1937. His entry into show business was pure chance. When he was 5, his family was living in California, and his father took him to get a haircut. The barber noticed something special in the boy and suggested he should be in movies. The barber's son was an actor, and he helped arrange Bobby's first audition.
Not another step!
By age 5, Bobby was working steadily. By 8, he was a Disney star. Walt Disney himself adored Bobby, often referring to him as the living embodiment of his own youth. Bobby was perfect. He had that wholesome, all-American quality Disney loved. He was talented, professional, hardworking. At his peak, he was earning $1,750 a week, equivalent to over $22,000 a week in today's money. But then Bobby hit puberty. His voice deepened. He developed severe acne. Suddenly, the boy who'd been perfect for Disney's vision wasn't perfect anymore. In 1953, just weeks after Peter Pan premiered, Disney quietly ended Bobby's contract. The way it happened was brutal. Bobby showed up at the studio one day, and they wouldn't let him through the gate. His friend Billy Gray later recalled the incident. Bobby was simply told he was no longer able to come to the studio.
They killed a man last night. Honest, they did.
Bobby tried to adjust. His parents moved him from the Hollywood Professional School to a public high school. It was a disaster. The other kids didn't accept him. They knew who he was, what he'd been, and they treated him as someone apart. He tried desperately to fit in, But the rejection only made things worse. He became angry, defensive, scared. He started making very poor choices at 17. His life unraveled quickly. He got married, had children, got divorced. He was arrested multiple times. He spent time at a rehabilitation center in California. Nothing helped. By the early 1960s, Bobby had moved to New York, hoping for a fresh start in theater or art. He'd always been creative, and he threw himself into the bohemian art scene of Greenwich Village, creating collages and cardboard mailers. But by 1968, Bobby was broke, sick, and alone. On March 30th of that year, 2 children playing in an abandoned building in Manhattan's East Village found him. He had passed away. Empty beer bottles and religious pamphlets were scattered nearby. There was no identification. The body was buried in an unmarked grave on Hart Island, New York's Potter's Field, as an unidentified person.
Captain! Captain!
For a year, no one knew what had happened to Bobby Driscoll. Then, in late 1969, Bobby's father was dying. His mother tried desperately to find her son so they could have one final reunion. She reached out to Disney for help. They still had Bobby's fingerprints on file. Those fingerprints led to the New York Police Department, which led to Hart Island. That's how Isabel Driscoll learned her son had been buried in an unmarked grave. Her husband passed away 2 weeks after learning his son's fate. Bobby was only 31 years old when he passed. The public didn't learn about it until 1972, when Disney re-released Song of the South, and reporters started asking about the film's young star. Bobby's mother later told reporters something that stayed with people. She said Bobby had promised to straighten himself out. He'd kept his promise in many ways, but his body, damaged by years of struggle, couldn't recover. Bobby Driscoll once said about his time in Hollywood, "I was carried on a silver platter and then dumped into the garbage can." Those words became his epitaph.
But he had a terrible scar.
Number 6. Tatum O'Neal, from Paper Moon.
No, ma'am, it was a $20 bill.
You give me...
Tatum O'Neal made history in 1974 when she won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for Paper Moon. She was 10 years old. To this day, she remains the youngest person ever to win a competitive Oscar. She was on top of the world, a child star with talent that even the Academy couldn't ignore. Born in 1963, Tatum came from Hollywood royalty. Her father was actor Ryan O'Neal. Her mother was actress Joanna Moore. But her parents' marriage was volatile and short-lived.
I gave her a $20 bill. I know I did. It was a birthday present for my aunt.
By the time Tatum was 2, they'd separated. Tatum and her brother Griffin were raised mostly by their mother. But Joanna struggled with personal issues, and the children's lives were chaotic. Ryan won custody of the children when Tatum was 7. A year later, director Peter Bogdanovich cast both father and daughter in Paper Moon, a Depression-era comedy about a con man and the little girl who might be his daughter. The chemistry between Ryan and Tatum was electric. The film was a critical and commercial success, and Tatum's performance was stunning. Sharp, funny, utterly believable. She made it look effortless. After the Oscar win, Tatum starred in The Bad News Bears, International Velvet, and Little Darlings. She was one of the most sought-after young actresses in Hollywood. But her relationship with her father was complicated and painful. Years later, Tatum would write about how Ryan exposed her to things no child should see, how he failed to protect her, how their relationship damaged her in ways she's still working to heal.
You still owe me $200.
By her late teens, Tatum was living on her own, trying to navigate adulthood without the tools or support she needed. She turned to unhealthy coping mechanisms to deal with the pain, the confusion, the emptiness. In 1986, she married tennis star John McEnroe. For a while, marriage and motherhood seemed to stabilize her. She had 3 children with John, and she tried to focus on being a parent rather than a celebrity. But the marriage was as volatile as her childhood had been. Both Tatum and John had tempers. Both had issues they hadn't dealt with. They divorced in 1992. For Tatum, it was the beginning of another downward spiral. Her struggles increased. She lost custody of her children. In 2008, she was arrested. It was her rock-bottom moment, played out in public for everyone to see. But Tatum's story has a different ending than the others. She got help. Real help. She went to treatment. She did the hard work of recovery. She's been doing well for years now. She's rebuilt relationships with her children. She's even returned to acting, appearing in smaller films and television shows. In interviews, Tatum has been honest about her struggles. She talks about how her famous father introduced her to harmful behaviors when she was young, how the lack of boundaries and structure left her vulnerable. She talks about the pain of losing her children, of having to fight to get them back. But she also talks about hope, about healing, about the possibility of change. Tatum O'Neal is one of the rare child stars who survived. Not unscathed. Nobody escapes Hollywood childhood unscathed, but survived. She's in her 60s now, still working, still fighting, still healing. Her Oscar sits somewhere in her home, a reminder of the 10-year-old girl who had everything and nothing all at once.
Mr. Stanley paid for the whole thing, don't you remember?
These 6 stories represent just a fraction of the child stars whose lives were forever altered by early fame. For every success story, there are dozens of children who were impacted by an industry that valued their youth and talent but failed to protect their well-being. Anissa Jones, Dana Plato, Gary Coleman, Trent Lehman, and Bobby Driscoll never got the chance to find peace. Their stories serve as painful reminders of the cost of childhood fame, of what happens when we ask children to carry burdens meant for adults. The 1970s gave us some of television's most memorable moments, but behind those bright smiles were real children dealing with real pain. We remember them not just for the joy they brought us, but for the price they paid to bring it. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on more fascinating stories.